If you're thinking about trading the hustle of New York City, LA, or Chicago for something a little sunnier, or maybe you're just curious about what life's really like here in St. Petersburg, Florida, you are not alone. Thousands of people are relocating to St. Pete every year, drawn here by the lifestyle, the weather, and yes, the lower cost of living. But how does St. Pete actually stack up against the big city life you're used to? I'm Jeffrey Clarke with Living in St. Pete, and today we're breaking it all down from cost of living and climate to transportation, culture, and community so that you can decide if this move makes sense for you. Joining me today is a special guest you'll be seeing more of on the Living in St. Pete channel, one of our awesome agents, Sage Farrell. Sage actually made the move to St. Pete himself from a colder state up north, so he brings some great insider perspective and personal tips, especially for those of you looking to relocate from out of state. So let's get right into it.
So number one is the cost of living. If you're thinking about buying a home in St. Pete, you're going to be pleasantly surprised by how far your money goes here, especially if you're relocating from high-cost cities like New York, San Francisco, or even Miami. St. Pete offers a unique blend of affordability, charm, and coastal lifestyle that's pretty tough to beat. Housing prices in St. Pete are 30 to 60% lower than in many major metro areas. And while the market has definitely grown in recent years, it's still possible to find beautifully updated homes in neighborhoods like Crescent Lake, Lakewood Estates, or Distant Heights for a fraction of what you'd pay in some of these bigger cities. Even in some of the historic districts like the Old Northeast or Kenwood, buyers are often finding more value per square foot compared to what they're used to if they're coming from some of these other markets. Another major perk here is that Florida has no state income tax, which can mean thousands of dollars saved every year, especially for remote workers, retirees, or high income earners. Property taxes in Pinellas County tend to be reasonable, typically around 0.9% to 1.1% of a home's assessed value. And if you're purchasing a primary residence, you can benefit from Florida's homestead exemption, which is an amazing program that reduces your taxable value and offers long-term savings for as long as you live in that home in Florida. And everyday living is more budget-friendly here too. From free beach access to affordable local dining, outdoor festivals, and vibrant arts events, St. Pete offers a high quality of life without requiring the high cost. For relocators looking to plant roots in Florida, St. Pete delivers from lower home prices, better tax benefits, and a relaxed Gulf Coast lifestyle. So definitely for relocators who are looking to plant roots in Florida, St. Pete delivers from lower housing prices than you may be used to, much better tax benefits, and a relaxed Gulf Coast lifestyle, all without sacrificing on amenities or culture. For number two, let's talk about lifestyle and vibe. And St. Pete's lifestyle strikes the perfect balance. You got a good split between laid-back coastal living with just the right amount of buzz and activity from the city. So if you're relocating from a fast-paced city, you might notice the slower tempo at first, but don't mistake that for boring. It's absolutely not. Around here, the vibe is chill, creative, and community-driven, and there's always something happening if you know where to look. The city is packed with personality. You'll find murals around every corner, local art galleries tucked into historic buildings, and weekly events like Saturday morning market here at the park, First Friday block parties, and sunset concerts at the pier. Whether you're into indie music, yoga on the beach, food truck rallies, or waterfront bike rides, there's no shortage of things to do. And most of this is happening outdoors year-round thanks to our sunny subtropical climate here in St. Pete. And St. Pete has really become a haven for creatives, entrepreneurs, and remote workers who want a little bit of a slower pace without sacrificing on culture or connection. So from the walkable streets of downtown in the Edge District to the friendly front porches of Kenwood or Allendale, you're gonna quickly find your people here. And plus, the community genuinely supports local. Think like indie bookstores, craft coffee, and boutique gyms instead of big chains. So if you're craving a more intentional lifestyle, one with more sunshine, more local flavor, and way fewer commutes, St. Pete isn't just a vibe, it's a lifestyle upgrade. So for number three, let's talk about weather. And you can say goodbye to snow boots and scraping windshields. St. Pete is sunny in every season. We have an average of 361 sunny days per year, and this is one of the sunniest cities in the entire country. Winters here are mild and breezy with daytime temperatures in the low 60s, maybe the low 70s, making it possible to walk the pier, play pickleball, and enjoy an outdoor brunch in January, which is amazing. And the beach isn't just for a vacation anymore when you live in St. Pete, it's your new year-round backyard. So whether you live close to St. Pete Beach, Paso Grill, or Treasure Island, or just make weekend trips west across town, the Gulf is always within reach here. Okay, now let's talk some real talk. Summers here do get pretty hot and humid. We can get daily highs into the upper 80s or upper 90s, and there's the occasional afternoon thunderstorm. That's just the trade-off for us locals for having milder winters and beautiful weather most of the year, And the locals know how to beat the heat. That could be heading to the beach, kayaking in the mangroves, or just grabbing a cold drink at a rooftop bar. Here in St. Pete, hurricane season runs from June through November, but St. Pete is well prepared. As a buyer, it's important to understand your flood zones, your wind mitigation features, and your homeowner's insurance options. Our team at Clarke Realty regularly works with out-of-state buyers and can help you navigate the right questions, like whether a property requires flood insurance or qualifies for wind mitigation credits. Most locals are going to tell you with smart prep in the right home, weather worries rarely outweigh the perks of living in this sunny Gulf Coast paradise. For number 4, let's talk about getting around, and let's talk transportation, because it's probably the biggest adjustment if you're moving from another major metro area. St. Pete doesn't really have subways, commuter rails, or major public transit hubs like New York City, LA, or Chicago do. Most people own a car here, especially if they plan to live outside of the urban core here in downtown St. Petersburg. That said, St. Pete is a very drivable city with short commutes, plenty of parking, and far less traffic stress than big city transplants are used to. And if you're craving a more car-light lifestyle, you still got plenty of options here in St. Petersburg. Neighborhoods like anywhere in downtown St. Pete, Kenwood, historic Uptown, and the Grand Central District are very walkable and bike friendly. You'll find wide sidewalks, bike lanes, and access to cafes, markets, and entertainments all within a few blocks. These areas are ideal for buyers who want to live close to the action without depending on their car every day. Plus, the Sunrunner, St. Pete's new bus rapid transit system, connects downtown to the beach in under 35 minutes with dedicated lanes and frequent stops along the way. It's really a game changer here for anyone commuting between downtown St. Pete, Central Avenue hotspots, and St. Pete Beach. So if you're used to public transit and you want to maintain some of that freedom, choosing the right area is absolutely key. Our team can help you find a walkable or transit-friendly area that fits your lifestyle, whether you're biking to breweries or commuting to Tampa for work. Number 5 is community and culture, and what really makes St. Pete special is the people here and the pride that they have in this city. Whether you're walking through a mural-covered alley downtown, grabbing a locally roasted coffee in the Grand Central District, or browsing handmade goods at a weekend market, you'll feel the strong sense of community and creativity that really sets the city apart. And St. Pete just doesn't feel anonymous, it feels more personal. You're really not just another face in a crowd here, you're part of the network of artists, small business owners, dog walkers, festival goers, and friendly neighbors who genuinely care about where they live. Local support runs deep here. People show up for farmers markets, art walks, porch parties, cleanup days, and neighborhood Facebook groups that actually help. Each neighborhood really has its own unique vibe. Like in Kenwood, you have historic homes with front porch potlucks. In Crescent Lake, it's common to see neighbors playing pickleball or walking their dogs under banyan trees. And in the Old Northeast, porch lights stay on and people wave hello. The community is especially welcoming to transplants and remote workers with lots of meetups, volunteer opportunities, and social events to plug into quickly. So whether you're looking for artsy, active, or family-friendly, there's a place and people for you in St. Pete. It's a city that invites you in, and once you're here, you'll understand why so many people come for the sunshine, but stay for the community.
Sage has been a member of our team for how long now? A little over a year, maybe 2 years?
I think it's like a year and a half-ish now.
Okay, and you moved here to St. Petersburg from where?
From Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Yep.
Which is crazy. I mean, that's a totally different type of life. I'm imagining. I mean, I've never lived in Minnesota. What were the big differences for you between living there and living here?
Well, in Minnesota, I lived in a small town. So St. Pete was the perfect mix of a big city with still like the local friendly vibe to it. So it's perfect for this time of my life, early 20s. I go out and I play beach volleyball. I go around downtown. So there's plenty of stuff to do, but it doesn't feel insane like the big cities. I visited Chicago and it was just too much for me. So St. Pete was the perfect mix.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I think that's a common bit of feedback that we hear from people once they come here. What had you focus on St. Pete in the first place? Like, how did you discover St. Pete?
So I wasn't focused on St. Pete. I actually visited quite a few different areas. And when I came to St. Pete, I was like, oh my goodness, this is perfect for me. So I wasn't focused on it. I just knew I wanted to move. So I was exploring different places. And St. Pete was by far my favorite.
Nice. You got lucky.
Yeah, I did.
What was like the second place contender? Just curious.
Well, I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina for like a few months trying it out. And I liked it there a lot. It didn't have as much water, so that was kind of the big thing. And then St. Pete, just the weather year round is amazing.
Yeah.
So like Charlotte, the weather's nice there for sure, but St. Pete is just better.
Nice. And so you've been with us for like a year and a half. How long have you been in St. Pete?
Over 3 years now. A little over 3 years, so
So
it's been a while.
You've been through the seasons, you've seen how it goes. One of the things that a lot of people who come from out of state ask us about are like the storm seasons, the hurricanes. And of course, last year we got hit for the first time in over 100 years with a direct storm. We actually got two pretty close back to back. And even though by the data they're extremely rare, I think they're just front of mind for people. So can you speak on your experience for storms? What is it like here? How big of a deal is it really for someone who hasn't lived in Florida their whole life but has been here for a few storm seasons?
Yeah, I would say it's not as big of a deal as a lot of people make it out to be. As long as you make the proper precautions, like, putting hurricane shutters up and whatnot, especially if you're not in a flood zone. If you're not in a flood zone, I don't think you have to worry too much about it.
Yeah.
If you're in a flood zone, obviously you're taking on a bit of a risk, and you could obviously try sandbagging, some of the stuff like that. I know they're coming up with some new technology to help mitigate those risks.
Yeah, definitely. How bad were the storms from your perspective as someone who had never been through like a hurricane, I'm guessing, until last year? How bad was it, in your opinion, for people in the city?
For me personally, it didn't really affect me all that much. We were without power for about a week, so that wasn't the funnest. But if you go over to the beach, they were affected majorly, unfortunately. So we saw a lot of people looking for housing, and some people, luckily, it was their second house, but there were primary residences.
Got destroyed.
Yeah.
The way I've been describing it to people is a vast majority of homes here were fine. Like fences fell down. Worst of it was I had the same thing as you, like power was out for a week. And a very small amount of people got devastated. And so it was absolutely heartbreaking. You drive through the neighborhoods that did get affected, and there were piles of things on the road. And those people have to start completely over, and that was horrible. But 95% of homes in the city didn't experience flooding or those kind of things. So, but it was rough. And again, that was the first time in like 100 years that we got hit with these back-to-back storms. So fingers crossed we avoid that this year. For people who do make that big jump from there to here, is there anything else that they should be aware of about lifestyle here, or tips, tricks, hacks, maybe something that's different that you might be privy to that someone like me, a Florida native, wouldn't think about?
I would just say try out as many different events as you can. If you're really trying to find your circle here, even if you try out one event, let's say it's yoga or whatever, it's a very different feel doing the yoga down at the pier versus there's Beach Town Yoga, which is donation based, so you can pop in for a yoga session there. And different places are going to have a little different feel. So if you're trying to find your group, just try out as many different social events as possible.
Yeah, do the sampler platter, so to speak.
Exactly, yeah.
100%. We talk a lot in these videos about not just with activities like you're saying, but neighborhoods here. It's like there are so many different vibes that are so distinct. And so yeah, I couldn't agree more. Dip your toe in. Go check it out.
Exactly.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Sage. Appreciate
course.
it. And thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next one.